And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Well, tonight's weather map showing not much going on out over the Bering Sea here. There's a couple of weak troughs out there with some light rain, fog, and drizzle. Otherwise, low clouds right up into the southwest coast, northward into the Bering Strait. Some light mixed precipitation for the Arctic coast into the Brooks Range. Otherwise, areas of light rain and showers here over the eastern interior. And this band of moisture spinning up from a low that's farther to the south brings a chance of rain along the east side of Kodiak Island late tonight. Light winds and fair for the southeast coast. And for tomorrow, no change there. Partly to mostly sunny, highs in the 60s and 70s again for the Panhandle. Mostly cloudy southern Alaska, chance of rain here in the central interior. Still a chance of rain and snow showers there from the Brooks Range on out to the eastern Arctic coast and north slope, but dry back to the west. Light rain, fog, and drizzle here over the northern Bering Sea and extending southward along a weak trough there all the way to the eastern Aleutians. And for Tuesday, that actually develops into a front and pushes eastward here with a low center developing and moving in toward the Kobuk Valley there. So periods of rain from the north central interior all the way down across Bristol Bay and then westward across the southern Bering Sea, grazing the central Aleutians into a warm front out toward Shimianatu. And a weaker front coming up from the south, that low center finally lifting northward a little bit. That'll push this front up and bring increasing chances of rain to the Kenai Peninsula, Prince William Sound, North Gulf Coast, and now increasing clouds with a chance of rain, especially on the central and north coast of the Panhandle in the afternoon, with maybe some showers in Lynn Canal. Otherwise, Cook Inlet here in the Susitna Valley, kind of in between the two systems through Tuesday. And for the coastal water forecast here, light winds on the south coast, west-northwest at about 10 knots. Light variable conditions for the remainder of the coastline. Inside water, south winds at 10 knots, seas 2 feet. And for the day Tuesday, south to southeast winds, 15 knots there for the south coast, central coast, southeast 15 to 20 knots. And winds picking up from the east at 20 knots from the north coast. And for the inside water areas from Lynn Canal to Clarence Strait, winds are forecast to be southeast at 10 knots with 2-foot seas. Same thing for Prince William Sound, southeast winds 10 knots for the day Monday with 2-foot seas. Light variable winds at 10 for the North Gulf Coast, southeast 15, Barren Islands, Kamishak Bay, south to southwest at 15 knots for Cook Inlet. And then for Tuesday, Cook Inlet, west to south winds at about 10 knots. Otherwise, northeast at 10 for Prince William Sound. North Gulf Coast, east-northeast winds at 20 knots. East at 15 for the Barren Islands and Kamishak Bay. Kodiak Island for Monday, light variable winds at 10 knots. Light variable winds at 10 knots for the Alaska Peninsula and Bristol Bay. Then for Tuesday, south winds at 10 knots for Bristol Bay, variable winds 10 to 15 knots for Kodiak Island, and variable winds or west-southwest winds at 10 to 15 knots for the Alaska Peninsula. Eastern Aleutians on Alaska Island, winds variable at 10 knots, otherwise out toward Nikolsky, west at 15, Adak and Atka, west-southwest at 20 knots, and for the Western Aleutians, westerly winds at 20 knots. For the day Tuesday, Western Aleutians, west-southwest winds 15 to 20 knots. And for the Adak and Atka area, west winds at 15 knots. Eastern Aleutians, west winds 15 to 20 knots. And for the southwest coast for Monday, south to southwest breeze 10 to 15 knots. South at about 15 St. Lawrence Island. Light southeast breeze at 10 knots for Norton Sound. Light variable winds out here in the Bering Sea at 10 knots for the Pribilof Islands and St. Matthew Island. And then for Tuesday, northwest winds at 20 for St. Lawrence Island or St. Matthew Island. The Pribilofs northwest at 15, and for the southwest coast, south to southwesterlies at 10 to 20 knots. West at 15 for Norton Sound, southwest at 10 for St. Lawrence Island. And for the Arctic coast, variable winds 5 to 15 knots for the day Monday in the Chukchi Sea, north to east winds at 10 knots. And for Tuesday, Chukchi Sea, southwest and northwest winds 10 to 15 knots, but east at 20 for the western Arctic coast. And now some brisk wind advisories as east winds increase to 25 knots for the central and eastern Beaufort Sea coast.